Let's head over to State of the Nation.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Well, welcome to State of the Nation, and my thanks to Donald Trump for being such a good guest at the beginning of the programme. He's always welcome to join us, and I think today is fundamentally important. It's either extremely good news or it's extremely bad news. I think there is very little in between, and we don't yet know, and it's almost certainly too early to say. What is the good news? The good news is that Donald Trump's statements are an accurate reflection of what has happened, that he has spoken to Putin, he's spoken to Zelensky, and he has the basis of a deal between the two that will lead to peace and will lead to the end of the deaths and the destruction in Ukraine. As he says, thousands of lives are being lost every week, and he believes that what he has arranged will reduce that, will stop that, will bring peace, having succeeded in bringing peace to 6 wars already, a point he made frequently. That is the very good news, and that makes the world a fundamentally safer place if Russia is no longer going to be a risk to the rest of the world, and if there is going to be peace in Ukraine, and if the territory of Ukraine is fundamentally respected. Those are the ifs. Now, on the other hand, this could be one of the biggest failures of Western diplomacy in most of our lifetimes. What is the risk? The risk is that this is a victory for Putin, that Putin doesn't quietly accept a peace treaty, that some funny defense force is cobbled together and put into Ukraine that nobody takes very seriously, that Putin, the wolf at the door, realizes that behind the door, if he huffs and puffs hard enough, are some little pigs that he can get at. That is the risk, that once again a dictator has been appeased, and that dictator will go further and will continue to be a danger. How interesting that the Finnish president was there. Finland only too well aware of the dangers that come from Russia, not just in recent times, but going back over the centuries, and a Finland that has joined NATO and is well-resourced in terms of its own military, its own army, to try and defend itself from the Russian bear. So that's where we are. We have listened to something. You have listened to something. You have borne listening to Ursula von der Leyen, which I think is noble of all of you who have stayed on this long. But what was being said, at least by President Trump and by President Zelensky, is of fundamental importance. The future of peace in the world is at stake. And we're trying to work out whether it is good or bad. And I have the best person in the world to tell us that, and that is Robert Fox. Robert, first of all, thank you for coming in. Yep. I'm basically admitting to my viewers I don't know whether this is very good or very bad. Can you try and elucidate it for us?
I'm going to pile on your agony and the viewers, I'm sorry to say, that I think there's a lot of unknowns, crucial unknowns, that we would really need to know about. Something changed in Alaska, that I think the posture of Putin and the people behind him, not all the people behind him, was unexpected. And they said simply, no ceasefire, we want a peace plan. And Lavrov, always slack of mouth, the foreign minister, had given the game away by saying, root reasons, our terms, the casus belli, the reason why we went to war, haven't changed at all. And that's what I fear very quickly is going to be the outcome of these talks. Yes, we've larged them up, that they're very important, and we've got the European leaders there. But it seems to me that in Putin's head, this is still part of his war plan. I don't think the fighting is going to stop before the winter comes. He's certainly got capacity, he's building capacity, he's making gains. Let it be said, nothing like the gains with the military prowess that Russia now possesses that it should be. There's something still going very badly wrong there. It is absolutely clear his minimal demand is that he wants Donetsk, and he was clear he wanted it for 2 reasons. Yes, it's a big industrial centre. Yes, it's enormously important in the ground battle. You take out absolutely key points, and virtually the whole of the east of Ukraine would go with that. And that's what I would like to know, is what is going on in the Kremlin. Very quickly, he took his economics team with him. They were there, the people like Kirill Dmitriev, who does deals with Vitkov. They were shoved to one side. This is how one knew that something had happened. The second part of the meeting was cancelled entirely. There was no lunch. He is pushing very, very hard for a military solution and a military settlement, going firm on lines, and I think it will only be temporary for 1 or 2 years, which allows him to declare to the Russian people in election year, which is always a beauty contest, but it's an opinion poll survey, look, I've given you victory, the greatest victory for Russia since Joseph Stalin in the Great Patriotic War.
And that if he takes the whole of Donetsk, then a lot of the Ukrainians' defences are removed, and therefore the rest of Ukraine is much harder to defend if he decided at some future date to go further. So what he is proposing is not just a victory he can declare to the Russian people, but it would be a real victory for Russia.
Yes. And then what the Europeans in that room should be asking themselves, what is his culmination point? That's the military term. Where does he want to stop? And this is very far from clear at the moment. This is where Stubb becomes important, the polls particularly, and why Friedrich Merz reluctantly, particularly with his defense minister, who is a different party, Pistorius, they know they've got to rearm. And this is why we're looking at potentially a very grim situation unless we can somehow corral Putin and to say, really do talk peace and settlement here, because we could have a core of the European alliance with 1.5 million people under arms. Poland, Finland and Germany, of course, and Britain is nowhere in all of this.
And we're on the sidelines, but has Trump achieved anything? Is there a possibility that Trump has got Putin to realise that he can't ultimately win and that he can't go any further and that there needs to be an end point? Or do you think Putin is just going home laughing on the other side of his face?
I think there's an element, I don't mean to say that they're wrong uns, but there's something what they call in French law a criminal conversation going on here. There's a kind of collusion of personalities here, because Trump does give Putin a very big thing. He shows the world that he, Putin, is one of the really big world leaders. And this kind of thing counts. And it counts for his vision of where he is taking the regenerated, he wouldn't call it a Russian empire, but so it is. It is imperium, as the great journalist Kapuscinski said, imperium. There's always this element. And he wants to regain Russia's position on the stage of European security. It wants to be seen as an equal partner and possibly even the superior partner in terms of European security and defence in the future.
Well, certainly in terms of the optics, President Putin looks an equal to President Trump, whereas I'm afraid our own Prime Minister, the Chancellor of Germany, the President of Finland, the President of France, look like, and the Prime Minister of Italy, look like minions, that they have turned up to pay court to a powerful leader, whereas Putin was dealing with Trump on equal terms.
Well, the three that you've mentioned, and I think, curiously, I know your panel won't agree, but having looked at her career very closely, I think in terms of negotiating politics, I think Meloni is easily the most effective of those three. She's shown it. She can get into Putin. She can talk to Putin. She can talk to Trump. She's very skillful, very nimble, very adroit on her feet. So the feel-good factor the latest polls show in Italy, under her, curiously, they've got all the problems that Britain has and some more and some fewer, is higher. Let's leave that. I just want to put two things that are we must think of in terms of taking Putin and Putin's stratagem into next year. This isn't going to be over. It isn't going to be over in the next few weeks. They've changed their nuclear doctrine yet again. There's a big Rusi paper last week showing that they're bringing the threshold lower and lower and lower into the first use of allowing them a greater excuse, can I put it like that, for the first use of tactical weapons. Very dangerous, They're developing new tactical weapons, so are the Americans. And now Starmer, for reasons which are not entirely clear, wants to buy old tactical weapons and re-equip the RAF with them. The other thing, though, is the Russian economy, which is holding up reasonably well at the moment. The new defense minister has steadied the ship there. It was a shambles under Shoigu. Shoigu is terribly important, but Belousov has done more. He's a really good business manager, and the supply, the logistics are being sorted out. And, of course, the ruble we've got at the bank, the redoubtable Elena Nabulena, the chairman of the bank, that's going in the short term. In the long term, there are ominous signs. Have a look at the price of potatoes. Have a look at bread. Look at the difficulties that they're having in Russia with the harvest. For the first time in whole parts of Russia, according to reports, I haven't been able to back them up, but there have been numerous reports now they're having to buy in potatoes. Would you believe it? So it's, how long can he be like Mickey Mouse playing the Sorcerer's Apprentice in Fantasia? How long can he keep the whole thing going? Because he's got 5, 6, 7 million directly involved in this war in Russia now, and it can't go on forever.
Well, let me bring in my panel, Stephen Pound and Sir John Redwood. John, let me come to you first. If you were advising the Prime Minister as you used to advise Margaret Thatcher, what would you be saying that a British Prime Minister should do and can contribute in these circumstances?
Well, I think it's very difficult to see what we can contribute because we haven't rebuilt our defence capabilities. We have an army of 73,000, very stretched with a whole series of duties around the world. And Russia has a field army of 1.1 million. And the most serious army against the Russian army in Europe is obviously the Ukrainian one. So I think Britain has to understand the reality on the ground that we aren't a big land force presence and we don't have a lot of ability to offer meaningful guarantees. The guarantees that really matter today are whatever Trump defines the American guarantee as being because of their colossal weight militarily compared with us. So my advice would be to be very careful about what you're promising on behalf of the United Kingdom, not say anything or do anything that gets in the way. I mean, I deeply hope that this Trump thing works. I mean, I think he's taking a huge risk. It would be wonderful if he broke through. I share a lot of the worries your distinguished guest has just expressed. I think it's going to be very unlikely he pulls this off, and we could be in for another bruising part of the war where Ukraine is going to need even more help. And so then what Britain has to say is you, the EU, are crucial to this. It's your borders that are risk, not ours. You have to put up an awful lot more. And it's no good just moralising and saying the right things. You, Europe, need to supply the weapons and the skills that is going to make the difference to Ukraine.
Stephen, I think that's a fundamental point, is that the UK, the EU, have all been saying the right thing. They will the end, but they don't will the means. There's no desire even to have effective economic sanctions on Russia, let alone to spend the money or to risk the lives that would be necessary to stop Putin. So how do we manage to make the ends and means match?
Well, what we have to do is to stand out shoulder to shoulder with the other fellow European countries, and to say that we're not as much, it's so much at risk as Estonia, Finland and Poland. I mean, I think if Putin does expand into, and let's face it, he was almost going through the alphabet. They're going Estonia first, then Finland. You know, we may be down the bottom of the alphabet. But look, I think the thing we have to recognise is that Russian military doctrine is pretty straightforward. It goes right back to Potemkin. Massive force, march the people over the minefields if necessary. That has now changed radically in the last couple of months. They're now making their own drones because the supply from Iran has been cut off. They're now having these small groups of 6 people going across and infiltrating, even huge loss of individuals. But they have changed their military doctrine. They've changed their tactics massively. And the thing to remember is every single day that we do not have a ceasefire is good for Putin. Because Putin has the resources, he's shifting the whole economy onto a war economy. The same that we did under Beaverbrook back in the 1940s. And you can do that, and once you've got that under control, that is a wartime economy. But your point, I have to say, Robert Fox's point about the potatoes, it may seem prosaic, it's incredibly important. Ukraine, as we all know, is the breadbasket of the whole, in fact, of Europe, in fact. Their grain and their potato harvests were massive. They cannot harvest either the grain or the potatoes at the present time. That will have an impact. But the bottom line is, every single day that we don't have a ceasefire is a win for Vladimir Putin.
Well, thank you both to Robert and to my panel. I feel in Effie Smith's term that I am none the wiser, but I'm very much better informed.
Effie Smith.
Shortly, Labour's war on the motorist continues as the government gives way to councils, allowing them to carry on with their dreadful low-traffic neighbourhoods. As rail fares rise and the motorist is under attack, are we witnessing the erosion of more of our freedoms?
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews travel destinations forecast.
The heat isn't quite as intense as it has been across parts of Europe, but nonetheless it is still hot and sunny for many Mediterranean areas, and indeed across the Canary Islands and Madeira, fine and very warm here. The heat's still there across Iberia though, so some very high temperatures here. A few thunderstorms for southern France and across inland parts of Italy, but mostly sunny in coastal parts. And Greece and Turkey will stay largely fine, sunny and very warm over the next few days, with lots of sunshine and temperatures in the low 30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews travel destinations forecast.
Good evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Tomorrow, similar to today, quite a lot of cloud around, but most of us dry and bright with some sunshine here and there. And again, 1 or 2 showers in the southwest, close by to this area of low pressure. Further north, high pressure is in control, bringing, as I said, a lot of dry weather, but also bringing a lot of cloud. And the cloud just pushing back inland as we go through the night, smothering much of the country by the time we get to dawn. Parts of western Scotland, Northern Ireland staying clear. In southwest England, South Wales, just the threat of 1 or 2 showers keeping going as well. Temperatures mostly holding up in the teens. For Tuesday then, it does start pretty drab. Maybe the cloud thick enough for a little bit of drizzle here and there around the coast of eastern Scotland, northeast England. Still a possibility of 1 or 2 showers across Devon and Cornwall. I think we'll see a few more of those developing through the day. Quite cloudy to begin with over much of East Wales, a good part of England. The thickest cloud close to these North Sea coasts, or as I say, there may be a bit of drizzle. Some brighter spells across the west of Northern Ireland and the west coast of Scotland, like today, should be favoured for a bit of blue sky and some sunshine coming through here. Elsewhere though, sunshine may take a while to come through, and parts of the east coast with this breeze coming in from the North Sea likely to stay pretty drab. Elsewhere, well, the cloud may break up a little bit, but overall I think it will be quite a cloudy day, and particularly in the southwest, Devon, Cornwall seeing 1 or 2 scattered but potentially heavy showers through the day. With a bit of brightness, we should see the temperatures climbing into the mid-20s along the south coast of England, but generally feeling quite cool, especially on these North Sea coasts where that breeze will again be present on Wednesday. Again, starting quite cloudy for most, but I'm a bit more optimistic for more in the way of blue sky and a bit more sunshine coming through by Wednesday. A fresher feel though, temperatures not as high, cool on those eastern coasts inland with some sunshine, low 20s.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Well, I'm still Jacob Rees-Mogg. And Labour's war on the motorist has gone up a gear. The Socialist government has abandoned plans to hinder the implementation of low-traffic neighbourhoods in 20 MPH zones. The plans, introduced by the last Conservative government, would mandated resident opinion and public meetings before being able to put them in place. A review of 90 LTNs this year showed that in areas where polling took place, residents were against the schemes in 87% of cases. That's almost North Korean-style opposition. Yet despite this, Labour said their revised plans would have made no positive difference for drivers. So will Labour's war on the motorist ever end? Well, my most intellectual panel is with me, the former Labour MP, Stephen Pound, and the former Conservative MP and Minister, Sir John Redwood. Stephen, let me get you to defend your socialist friends. They basically hate the motorists, don't they?
Oh, don't be ridiculous. Sorry, Sir Jacob. I mean, I'm all naturally deferential and polite, but that's nonsense.
They just hate the motorists.
Yeah, of course we don't.
You like controlling people's lives.
We are motorists, for heaven's sake. You know, we don't all ride around on penny farthings.
Yeah. No, all these ministers have drivers. They never drive themselves.
You've had a driver for longer than I've had a driver. I'll say that for you. But look, the reality is that you still have to have a local level of support for an LTN. In my borough, in Ely, we voted on every single one, and in 2 cases actually said, yeah, we quite like it. Look, all over London you have one-way streets because you have the real problem of rat running. What's wrong with that? The thing about an LTN is that you can't raise the money for any purpose other than actually highway improvements. You can't actually put the money in the pocket of the council.
They cheat, though, don't they? We know that perfectly well. The money doesn't just go on highways. It goes on things that they can say are related to them. It goes on the pay of the man running the Highways Commission. I mean, it all gets siphoned off.
But look, there's a couple of boroughs, and I can think of particularly, you know, a couple in London who went basically gung-ho, and they went completely silly about this and started banging them all over the place.
Oxford is poisonous. No one in their right mind would go to Oxford.
I don't entirely understand what they've done in Oxford. As far as I'm concerned, they want to have it as a car-free zone in the centre. But it is known for the dreaming spas and bicycles. But, I mean, it's a bit ridiculous. My son's an electrician. He couldn't get around with all his kit on the back of a bike. And, fortunately, it doesn't work in Oxford. But look, the LTNs in... I mean, OK, forgive me for talking about London, but London and some of the other big cities, Liverpool and Manchester, they are essential because, like it or not, if we didn't have them, we'd end up with the situation back in the 1890s. We had the first ever traffic signals in Parliament Square.
In Parliament Square, yes.
Because it was just chaos.
The first one blew up and a policeman was injured. They were gaslights. But let me bring Sir John in on this, because, John, actually, our last period of government started all this nonsense. We weren't very supportive of the motorist. 20 mph limits may be suitable outside of school when children are going in or out, but they're a complete menace, and they make doing business in the countryside really difficult because they have such a profound effect on journey times.
Well, indeed, I think it's very anti-business. Small businesses need vans and cars to get around to see their customers or to service their shops. It's very bad for big business and their customers because you need deliveries. People can't go shopping on a bike if they're shopping for a family for a week. They can't go out in the evening in all their glad rags on a bike. I mean, you've got to be realistic. People need cars. Cars are a crucial part of our freedoms. And instead of making it impossible for us, these councils should be providing enough decent road space for the cars, with safe routes for pedestrians and bicycles, not on the main roads, not taking the road capacity away. They shouldn't be closing roads when we haven't got enough of them. And we want cheap car parking near our journey's end.
And it makes it particularly harder for older people, and many grandparents help with the school run and things like that, who can't be expected to get on bicycles or walk the children home because they're of an age where that's physically beyond their capacity.
Yes, but as I say, it's also true of the able-bodied young families. How on earth can they handle a couple of children and all the things they need to do? And how do you get to work in the morning on time? I mean, these things are not realistic to have so many of these areas messed up, along with the road closures and the 20-mile-an-hour limits, which is just a way of mugging the motorists with fines.
And the economic case for roads is extraordinarily strong, isn't it? It's the one area where taxpayer expenditure clearly and definitely grows the economy.
Well, indeed, and parties have not been putting in enough roads. Conservative Party didn't do well enough on that, but the Labour government came in and started cancelling the ones that the Conservatives were doing. You get very good returns in the way that the government calculates the results. And people normally complain that, oh, the new roads is already full up. It shows how successful and how popular they are.
Well, that's absolutely right.
That's the sort of thing, doom, isn't it? So George Young, I had a great deal of time for, as the Transport Minister and my parliamentary neighbour. And when he increased the width of the M25, he said, you do realise on the present projections we're going to have a 20-lane M25. Because the thing is...
Yes, because people want to go places, and we were
that's economic.
In those days, we had economic growth.
Do we want to live in Los Angeles, which is like 20 suburbs in search of a city, or do we want to live in cities where people have some ability to breathe fresh air and clean air and travel?
Do we want the mad mayor of London who has made Park Lane, which was a 40-mile-an-hour road, into a 20-mile-an-hour traffic jam? This is your socialist friends.
So Jacob, I don't think anybody's ever driven at 40 miles an hour in Park Lane for the last 50 years.
You could until...
At 3 o'clock in the morning, maybe.
No. I used to live just off Park Lane, and you could go along Park Lane northerly.
This causes more environmental damage, more emissions out the back pipe of the cars in the traffic jam.
Sorry, so John, when you actually talked about we need more parking spaces, more car parks, we can't actually build the city around the car. The car...
Why not?
People like the car. Anyway, people want.
The socialists hate the car.
That's what the successful
We don't hate the car.
Dear old Stephen,
one day I'll own one.
Socialist doesn't like the car.
One day I'll be able to afford
In a moment, bait your breath. Think of that music, da-da-da-da. A bated breath as to who will be the new 007. The debate has taken a fascinating turn, and it's been down to Dame Helen Mirren to state the obvious. James Bond cannot be a woman. If he were, what would the Bond girls make of it? Anyway, are you bubbling with excitement for a particular brand of drinking water, or just tend to go with the flow? Because it's Bond and water next. Shaken but not stirred.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Well, as the world continues to watch with shaken but not stirred anticipation over who will inherit the licence to thrill as the next 007, the conversation has taken a fascinating twist. Step forward Dame Helen Mirren, who's fired the golden gun on a debate many wouldn't even have entertained as a possibility. James Bond, she insists, simply cannot be a woman. Well, perhaps one lady who would have been up to the job was the late, great Margaret Thatcher, who might have been very good at defeating Francisco Scaramanga, who you will remember. But what would the legendary Bond girls make of a girl Bond? Would it be a view to a killer actress, or would they say, Dr. No? Well, I'm joined now by the socialite and TV personality, Lizzie Cundy. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm rather reminded, if I may change slightly, that Dr. Johnson's comment, who said broadly, a woman James Bond is like a dog walking on its hinder legs. It's not done well, but you're surprised to find it done at all. Do you think Dr. Johnson would have been right?
I think he would be totally right, and I think Ian Fleming would be turning it in his grave thinking that James Bond could be a woman. Look, Jacob, I was lucky enough to be in 2 James Bond movies with Pierce Brosnan. I was a body double and I played a Bond girl in Tomorrow Never Dies, and it was a great experience. But the reason why we all adore James Bond, because he's the ultimate masculine hero. You know, the girls all fall in love with him. He gets the baddies. He has every gadget. He has fast cars, you know, and he's the coolest man on the planet. And it just wouldn't work as a woman. I'm sorry, Jacob, it's all wrong. And if the woke brigade want James Bond to be a woman, then they should write their own book or novel or movie. But don't touch our James Bond. He cannot be anything but a man.
And you were in a traditional, proper James Bond film with the wonderful Pierce Brosnan. Did you enjoy doing it? Was it fun to make the film?
Honestly, Jacob, it was probably one of the most fun times I've ever had. And Piers was a great fun to be with, a great Irishman. And in one scene, I actually had to try and squeeze him to death. I was the body double for the main actress. And he was extremely hairy, I have to tell you. But it was great fun. And it was amazing. And he was a real gentleman. Everyone adored him. But let's not forget, this is big business. I mean, James Bond films are the highest grossing franchise there is. They've made billions. So why would you want to change it? Why rewrite the books, rewrite history? It's not fair. And you know, the fans' expectation is proper James Bond, who we know and love.
And you were, if I'm right, the body double for Xenia Onatop in the GoldenEye, which was such an exciting film with that wonderful scene when the tank is riding through the city, smashing buildings as it passes on. And it's just fun, isn't it, James Bond? But it's male fun rather than, if I may put it this way, girly fun.
Well, it is, and it wouldn't be the same if a girl was doing that. Look, I'm sorry, you wouldn't have Lara Croft being a man calling him Lawrence Croft. This is the way the books were written. This is how the movies were made. This is what the fans love. And it shows with the franchise how much money that this has made. It's huge. It's the biggest in all the world. And he's loved globally. And I have to say, my time on there was such fun. I mean, to be working on a James Bond film, which is iconic, was probably the pinnacle of my career, to be honest, Jacob. I absolutely adored it. It was great fun, and I really do think this is just woke nonsense. Let's take a look what's happened with Jaguar, Budweiser. When they've changed the brand, when they've changed the formula, it hasn't worked.
You're so right that dreadful Jaguar advert put everyone off Jaguars. I think if they had a female James Bond, nobody would go to the cinema to watch it. They want people in the Sean Connery, Roger Moore, Pierce Brosnan mould. I'm suggesting Dominic West as an old friend of mine who would make a brilliant James Bond. What do you think of that idea?
Well, I quite like it. What about you yourself? I thought you could make a quite good baddie, actually.
Well, thank you. I don't think I'd get away quite with the names Rees-Mogg, Jacob Rees-Mogg, but I will try practising in the mirror in case anyone who is casting is watching. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been great fun. Thank you. Well, a Michelin-listed restaurant in Cheshire has just unveiled Britain's first ever bottled water menu, offering 7 different mineral waters at up to £19 a bottle. all served in wine glasses and introduced by a water sommelier. So is there really such a thing as a best mineral water? Well, I happen to think there is. It's this. This is the water I always drink. Crucially, it has to be in a glass bottle, not plastic, because plastic has a nasty taste. And secondly, it must come from Morven. This is Morven water, and it was Queen Victoria's favourite. The late Queen drank it. Princess Margaret had Morven water provided for her whenever she was in Claridge's, especially. It's by far and away the best. It's got a wonderfully clear, fresh flavour. It's just very straightforward, proper water, and it's available from the Holywell Spring. But don't all buy it at once, because otherwise my supplies might run dry, as it is my non-alcoholic tipple of choice. After the last interview, obviously I normally have a martini shaken but not stirred. Now, we're going to go over to the one and only Patrick Christys. Patrick, what is your favourite glass of water? I hope you like Morven water too. It is a gentleman's water.
Oh, well, yeah, or Buxton as well, because that used to come out of the taps where I was when I was growing up, so that was quite good. Look, I've got loads on tonight, Jacob. Thank you very much. We are going to be reacting to everything we've just heard from the White House, but I just want to know, do you just want this war in Ukraine over? I don't know about you, but I'm ready for my bills to come down. I'm ready for my food prices to come down. I've had enough of this now, and I wonder whether you have as well. Operation Raise the Colours. Yes, that's right. We've been hoisting Union flags and St George's flags. Some councils have been trying to take them down. I'm going to do a little review of what's been going on there as well. And the first Gazan refugee children are set to arrive in the UK very soon. I think this will pave the way for plane loads of Palestinian refugees. We've got all of that and much, much more after your weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Tomorrow, similar to today, quite a lot of cloud around, but most of us dry and bright with some sunshine here and there. And again, one or two showers in the southwest, close by to this area of low pressure. Further north, high pressure is in control, bringing, as I said, a lot of dry weather, but also bringing a lot of cloud. And the cloud just pushing back inland as we go through the night, smothering much of the country by the time we get to dawn. Parts of western Scotland, Northern Ireland staying clear. In southwest England, South Wales, just the threat of one or two showers keeping going as well. Temperatures mostly holding up in the teens. For Tuesday, then, it does start pretty drab. Maybe the cloud thick enough for a little bit of drizzle here and there around the coast of eastern Scotland, northeast England. Still a possibility of one or two showers across Devon and Cornwall. I think we'll see a few more of those developing through the day. Quite cloudy to begin with over much of East Wales, a good part of England. The thickest cloud close to these North Sea coasts, or as I say, there may be a bit of drizzle. Some brighter spells across the west of Northern Ireland and the west coast of Scotland, like today, should be favoured for a bit of blue sky and some sunshine coming through here. Elsewhere, though, sunshine may take a while to come through, and parts of the east coast with this breeze coming in from the North Sea likely to stay pretty drab. Elsewhere, well, the cloud may break